A very good evening, and thanks for clicking on to the Sunday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. Before I speak about the main subject of today's video, heat, I want to very quickly touch on the wins of yesterday. And I know, I'm sure you'll not mind me saying, actually, it was my dad that made a comment and saying about how the winds were unusually strong for the time of the year during the course of yesterday. And indeed, they were unusually strong in terms of the fact that climatologically at this time of the year you don't expect to have low pressure down into the 960s and 970s in millibars. You don't expect to have gusts in excess of 50 miles an hour down at sea level, 90 plus over high elevations. But in fact, it does actually come around every few years. Those kind of winds, and actually 2012 we've seen a system coming up from the south, and I've been kind of starting to kind of draw a little bit of a bit more interest with 2012 versus this year, the type of pattern that we've got going at the moment. But really, there is a few big differences actually between 2012 and 2022 thus far. Yes, we did have a fairly windy day yesterday. We've seen the lowest level wind speed was 54 miles an hour, the highest 95 over Cairngorm Summit. But in fact, if you go back to 2012, we had a deep area of low pressure that came up from the south. Actually, the Met Office issued an amber warning for winds of 60 and 70 mile per hour on the south coast and the southwestern portion of the British Isles during that period. We're also seeing the wettest June on record for the UK, and we had some incredible rainfall totals, and we also seen some pretty amazing wind actually with an early June system that came up from the south. And the June record for the British Isles wind gust wise was 89 miles per hour back in 2000. And for the life of me, I can't actually remember the location. It was either in Wales or Needles. Needles Point has seen some very impressive wind gusts for early summer. So it does happen. It is unusual because it only happens maybe once every, 5 to 10 years, but it is not by any means unprecedented wind speeds that was seen through the course of yesterday. So just wanted to quickly touch on that. We have seen windier conditions even for the month of June, even for the month of July as well. But in today's video, I want to talk about heat. We are going to see a short-lived hot spell towards the end of this upcoming work week. I say short-lived because it is only going to really be for a period of a day or two. So Friday and to a lesser extent Saturday, we could see temperatures into the low 30s in the UK. I also want to point out the fact that it is going to be an England and Wales hot spell based on the model runs at this moment in time. At the moment, it looks as if low pressure to the west of Iberia and also to the west northwest of the UK is going to open that door to some very, very hot conditions that is over Spain and Portugal. And as of recording, which is 20 past 6 in the evening, we are talking about a temperature of 43 Celsius in south interior Spain. We are also talking about temperatures into the low 30s in southern France. Now, over the next several days, we're going to see temperatures day by day climbing quite widely, by the way, into the 40s. And we could be talking about temperatures into the middle 40s over Spain by the time we reach the early and middle portion of this upcoming work week. So as we'll play through the loop here, this is off the GFS, and you can see here day by day temperatures climbing into the high 30s, low 40s, and the areas that are kind of whitish grey colour are representing temperatures well in excess of 40 Celsius. And you can see here day by day temperatures climb and go through the roof Like I say, widespread 40s is a given across Spain and even across parts of Portugal throughout the course of this week. Today marks day 3 in a row of 40 plus in Spain, and you can see here that as I continue to play through the loop over the next week or so, we're going to see temperatures, day after day reach the 40s, and it's going to be quite the stress and quite the strain on the people of Spain and Portugal. The record, by the way, for Spain is actually 47.3 Celsius, recorded in Montoro back in July 2017. Could we approach that record? It's possible. I think we could be talking about maybe 45 Celsius, maybe a 46 through the course of this week. I don't personally think that we're going to exceed that record, but certainly over the next several days, temperatures are going to be very, very extreme down in the southwest of Europe. So looking at the overview chart of the GFS, you can see here we've got a pretty strong area of high pressure to the north of the Azores. We've got some disturbed weather on the eastern flank of the islands here, and of course we've got some very, very hot conditions across Spain, Portugal, and extending up into France. There's the remnants of Tropical Storm Alex that produced all the strong winds through the course of yesterday and even to an extent today. That is now weakening as it moves up into the Norwegian Sea. As we'll play through the loop, we've got that area of high pressure really draped across the central portion of the Atlantic. Low pressure to the north, high pressure to the south. We're going to start to see the temperatures coming up over Spain, France, and extending upwards into the British Isles. The northern half of the British Isles is going to be quite different to what we're going to see down across particularly southern portions of England and Wales through the middle and latter half of this week. In fact, we do have quite the disturbed weather moving in towards the middle and latter half of this week. As you can see here, we've got the development of low pressure off Iberia. We've also got a deepening area of low pressure approaching the UK from the northwest. That is going to force this area of high pressure to the east of the UK, and it essentially just opens the oven door and allows that hot air to come north. And this has been something I've been alluding to through the month of June. Eventually, some of this heat will manage to get north. But the problem is this area, the very area of low pressure that is deepening off the northwest of Scotland, is going to produce strong winds and heavy rainfall at the same time the temperatures reach the highest levels of the summer season so far. So we're going to be starting to see the temperatures coming into the high 20s Thursday, probably the low 30s during the course of Friday. All the while, Northwest Highlands, heavy rainfall and temperatures really suppressed for the time of the year, and we're going to see a big contrast between the northwest and the southeast of the British Isles during the course of Thursday and Friday here. So you can see here a pretty deep area of low pressure for the time of the year, moving in between Iceland and Scotland, squeezing the isobars, meaning increasing wind. We've got high pressure in the east, southeast of the UK. We've got an area of low pressure, albeit a small feature, off Iberia, and there is that open door to some very warm conditions indeed. Now the details in terms of how close that rainfall gets and progresses across the northwest of the UK is open to question. How much heat do we get out of Spain, Portugal, France, into the British Isles? How far does it extend north? All open to question. It is a complex setup, no doubt about that, towards the end of this week, and we are going to see comings and goings in the model. But you can see here, this is the 850 millibar temperature chart for Friday. Area of low pressure near Iceland is going to be drawn in some pretty cool air for the time of the year into the northern half of the British Isles. In a sense, the circulation from that system will deflect the core of the heat. And certainly, I'm saying will, it's highly likely to, because the ECMWF is showing that, the GFS, I'm showing you, is showing you that, and you've also got other model runs as well that indicate that this heat is going to get forced back south and east. It's going to get that kick because of the area of low pressure dragging in much cooler, fresher conditions. So it never really reaches the northern half of the British Isles. And in fact, 24 hours later, that heat is knocked out of the way and back into Europe once again, and we're left with cool air coming in around the top of an area of high pressure. So the area of low pressure moves in and then eventually gets replaced by an area of high pressure over the northeast Atlantic, and we're going to draw in some cool air once again. So it's going to be a glancing blow of heat. Exactly how warm we do see across the southeast of the British Isles remains to be seen, but you can see here by the time we reach Thursday, we're talking about 24, 25, possibly 26 degrees across the southeast corner. Then Friday looks to be the warmest day of the week, where we could be seeing temperatures approaching the 30 Celsius mark. But keep an eye on Scotland, 12s, 13s, 14s, 15s across the northwest Highlands, where it's likely to be windy, it's likely to be wet as well, and a very big difference in temperature between the northwest and the southeast. And the latest run of the GFS actually indicates that temperatures sneak into the 30s during the course of Saturday. So these are the temperatures at 1800 UTC on Saturday, 30 Celsius shown in the model south of London, while we've got 12s and 13s across the northwestern corner of the British Isles here. So an interesting week of weather to come. I will talk more about the long range in the next couple of days. There's no point in talking about that at the moment because the big story, if you will, is actually the heat of this week. So interesting times this upcoming week. Please keep it right here on my YouTube channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I will hopefully be back again tomorrow with more. Bye for now.